My head was swirling as I thought about being with you all today. And I started remembering back of having been with you in the past and realized that I've now been here close to 30 years. And I was trying to remember who was here before Brewster.
That was Smith.
Okay, that's when I arrived. So we go back a way. So I arrived this morning in great love, I hope you know, of this congregation. And I arrived having given thought to what's going on in the world, and I also arrived having given thought to that you're searching for a new vicar. So I'm going to try to weave some things together. And I'm going to begin with Margaret Mead, who said, as you know, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." That got me thinking about Colossians. You know, back in the day, after Jesus died, the world was in a bit of turmoil. There was a very powerful government ruling the land. And there was a group of Christians that were beside themselves of having lost Jesus. And there were all these communities, though, of faith, small communities around the Mediterranean. And there was Paul connecting them. There was Paul affirming them, loving them, and reminding them of their call. And I thought, wow, that's really neat. And then I got thinking, wow, the impact that those communities had. That St. Peter's Lithgow and Grace Millbrook or St. Paul's Pleasant Valley or Trinity Wall Street, what have you, wouldn't exist today if it hadn't been for the faith and the power of those fledgling small groups of people. Echoing Margaret Mead's words there, right? So time has moved forward, and I've been thinking about all that's in the news these days, and the great challenges of the whole discussion around immigration and our border, and the images that we've seen, and the conversations and discussion about our environment, and creation about us, and you know, I could go on and name the issues. And I wanted to say, wow, these times are tumultuous. These times are worse than they've ever been. I'm not sure that they're worse than they've ever been. But that doesn't really matter, because here we are today in the midst of all of this. And our call is to be faithful and to push forward in our faith. Which gets us to the gospel. So, everybody easily focuses, right, on the Samaritan. Guy gets beat up, the priest walks by, and I get that. You know, I get the Levite and the priest walking by, because I know that it's easy to get focused on what we have to do and get focused on ourselves. And this really came home to me, as I mentioned to a couple of you. I was in the Bay Area last week, visiting one of my sons. And I don't know if you've been to the Bay Area recently, but there are a lot of homeless people lying on the sidewalk, lying on the street. And I found myself walking by. So I can understand the Levite, I can understand the priest, and I can understand the whole story, but what really catches my eye is what begins the story. The lawyer says, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" Or to put it in different words, What must I do to feel fulfilled? What must I do to feel that my life has some meaning, some purpose? What must I do to connect to the peace of God, the joy of God, the power of God? Now, if you're like me, there are moments in my life when I find myself asking those same questions. I find myself pondering, what's this all about? And am I really feeling connected to this? And I'm about to be crass for a moment. I do my fair share of funerals. And I realize that time and time again, when I'm meeting with families about creating the funeral and the loss of their loved one, that time and time again, people focus on the virtue of that person. What is most important to them, to us in that time, is what did Richard do that gives me a sense of meaning, a sense of connecting life. So people talk about that Richard or Dad or Mom or what have you was a scout leader, or that they were very involved in their church, or that they helped create a nonprofit organization, or whatever. Acts of good works that have to do with being in relationship and furthering the goodness of the world along. And I realized at that point, that was all coming to me, that yes, that is truly our yearning, is to feel like we are a part of this world. Now, I raise all that, and I'll come back now to St. Peter's. You are a remarkable congregation. You are a remarkable group of people. When I think of the various skills and talents and connections of helping maintain an international organization, of people being involved in London and Wall Street and what have you, people being on the cover of the Times literary section, all these amazing things that you do and have access to as individuals, it's remarkable. When I think of this congregation, you are one of the most vibrant congregations in the state. Every Sunday I'm in a different church somewhere across New York State. So I get to see a lot of congregations. And I'm always struck by the vibrancy of St. Peter's. And I think back through the time, and I think back through the Scottish Ball, and, I had fun. And I think, to the gatherings and the tents here, and the ESL literacy, that John was involved in. All these wonderful things that you have done as a congregation. And I want to affirm to you that just as Paul was affirming to the Colossians, you have a very valuable role in our world, in our society, in our country, in our diocese, in this community, in your own lives. A very important role. And I hope you know how much rural migrant ministry depends upon you for being St. Peter's Lithgow, because your presence in the world enables us to be present in our world, and others to be present in their world. You are a part of this. And here you are now at this juncture where you are calling, or will be calling, a new vicar. And it would be easy to call somebody who just helps make things move smoothly along. But that's not what the gospel is saying here today. The gospel is holding up a man who went out of his way to make a difference in the world. He gave up his money, he gave up his time, He gave of his compassion and his love. He was proactive. He was not just, well, all right, I got to do this so I can get on. He was engaged in creativity. He was engaged in creating God's community. Talked a few moments ago about the world and all that's going on. And one of the things that strikes me about what's going on in the world right now, and maybe it's always been this way, I don't know, but is the negative energy. No matter what our stand may be politically about these issues that are going on in the world, I don't think that we can argue against the fact that there's a lot of negative energy. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of keep away, there's a lot of just focus in. There's a lot of negative energy. But what the gospel is holding out to us, and what we see time and time again in the gospel, is the positive energy. And I know at Rural Migrant Ministry, when we're involved in creating things, it feels great. The camp, and I'm going to say more during the announcements about the camp, but I was telling a couple of you, we had a young woman named Maria Christina who came, we met first at our camp. And she came to our camp, and she really wanted to make a difference in the world. You could see it when she was just a little one. She was just determined. And so we worked with her all these years. We ran hard to keep up with her because she was really energetic. She just called me up a couple of weeks ago, and she's now 24 years old. And she was just named Director of West Coast Organizing for the Elizabeth Warren campaign. Now, again, if you're a Warren candidate or not, I mean, whatever. But the energy that I felt about knowing that I got to be a part of her journey as she is trying to find ways to make a difference in the world was really, I had a bounce to my step, so I still bounce to my step. It's that bounce that we get for being a part of creating that what God is holding out to us. Your look for a vicar is one of who is going to help you come and be a part of God's creation. Who is one that is going to come and help you be a part of the positive energy in the midst of a world that wants to go toward the negative? Who is one that is going to help you find that bounce in your step, no matter what position you are? That's our call. And as Margaret Mead had reminded us, that's our call also as a congregation. Who is going to help you come and give this congregation bounce? You can put that in the official question for your campaign. Who's going to give you bounce as you go forward? Because I think you need it, and I think the rest of us need that. So, go forward intentionally and proactively, believing that yes, you can make a change, and that it's worth it.